From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's the Executive Spotlight.
Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest is Ryan Maguire with Helm. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you.
Hey, I'm happy you're here, and I want to dive right into the content. Let's talk about EVs. I mean, with dealerships getting more and more EVs, and that EVs are only going to grow as a percentage of the vehicles we're selling. What can dealers do to maintain the business that they're getting through service and accessories now and grow it into the future?
No, great question. A lot of what we're working with the dealership network on is looking at those extended opportunities just beyond the vehicle sale and the financing. Mm-hmm. And dealers have a lot to prepare for with the EV transition for both the sale and the service. But we're looking at really the express service and what has happened with even just internal combustion engine vehicles over the past. Mm-hmm. Retention is a big piece for dealership profitability, service retention, and ensuring those customers are coming back for everything from oil change to tire rotation to the brakes to the filters and so on. And dealers have been able to boost their service retention over the years through that express service process, offering quick and convenient service. Now we're talking with dealerships and really implementing a strategy to take that same concept and now start to adapt it to EVs, or at least start to prepare for that EV shift. Mm-hmm. They're not seeing the volume of EV vehicles in the service departments yet, but they will. And the aftermarket independent repair facilities out there may not be prepared to service EVs yet, but they will be. And so we're really working with dealerships to perfect that process so that the retention grows and we're servicing more vehicles. And the reason why dealerships should be focused on increasing their retention and servicing more vehicles with EVs, we know that it's about 40% less moving parts on an EV than on a traditional vehicle, which means less service and parts and repair opportunity. Great for the owner of the vehicle, great for the driver, not so great for the dealership service and parts profitability. Mm-hmm. And so really looking at that long term, and we've got a decent runway to work with the dealerships right now, but looking at that saying, okay, if your retention's at 50% today, where do we need to take it on an EV basis in order to offset that volume loss in terms of service and parts profitability?
Can you give me an example of what, like, one of the steps that a dealer is taking now? I mean, they're not in the game 100% yet. Sure. I mean, we still have plenty of combustion engine vehicles,
right.
But can you just share a couple of steps or one of the steps that dealers are taking right now to prepare for that shift?
Yeah. A lot of it is implementing a dedicated team and a dedicated process for all of their customers, not just EVs, and really looking at the vehicles that are coming today, perfecting and enhancing that process so when the EVs shift, the customers are getting a better experience than they are today, a more convenient experience. So some of the things that we are implementing with the dealerships and that dealerships are implementing are dedicated service bays that are solely focused on maintenance, light maintenance, business, right? So oil changes, tire rotations, filter replacements. Eventually with EVs, we need to become really good at tire replacements, right? That is going to be the next oil change of an electric vehicle. They're going to be wearing out tires more frequently. And that's a process that takes longer than changing the oil on a vehicle. So starting to evolve that process and adapt it to tire replacement, just like you would at a dedicated tire chain facility. We want to start implementing that in our service departments as well so that we begin migrating for that shift. So I would say it's more of an evolution versus a revolution, but perfecting it around internal combustion, getting that customer experience and that process down, and staffing appropriately. A lot of times we see that the staffing just isn't there so that we are ready for that customer when they come in. Sometimes they have an appointment, sometimes they don't, right? And so we want to work on that process to make sure we're setting the right expectation with the dealerships and with the customers in terms of setting that appointment or just coming in for service, but being able to offer that quick and convenient service, whether it's an internal combustion or an EV, is something that we're working with the dealerships on today.
That sounds great, because you're not only preparing for the EVs, but you're going to treat every customer better and give them a better experience no matter what they're driving today.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're talking with dealers on is, we're all here to run a business, and dollar and cents and profitability matters. and let's leverage this runway, this healthy runway we have with internal combustion, and maximize the dealer's revenue and profitability on that by increasing the service retention on their existing vehicles in the marketplace, which will then lead to better retention on EVs when they start to shift. Again, perfecting that tire process will be a part of the evolution that we'll implement, and focusing on the express service and really creating a dedicated space within the dealership, dedicated process, and a dedicated team extends beyond just servicing the vehicle. We're seeing it as a great way to recruit and train technicians, which is, as we know, is a huge shortage in the industry, has been for years. There's not a single dealership out there not looking for a technician. And so we've been working with a lot of the different OE-sponsored technician programs to find them a starting place within the express service bays at a dealership to kind of build that foundation that will take them into the main shop later in their career.
Nice. Well, I guess the good news is people that work at dealerships, they love change and they have no fear of change. Right. Just kidding. Yeah. Change is often met with some resistance.
A little bit, yeah.
So as you're rolling out these new programs, and how does a dealership get all their people on board with this?
Yeah, a lot of it is sitting down with the ownership and showing them the opportunity that we see in their store. And we have a field team of roughly 250 consultants out there that in the U.S. market, working with dealerships, thousands of dealerships. And the nice thing is we get to see what the best of the best do and how they do it. A lot of the concepts that we are bringing to a dealership or implementing at a dealership are not new. But it's implementing that change and creating that focus so that the dealers can drive the behavior through their teams. And a lot of it comes down to compensation plans and incentive plans. And so typically when we sit down with one of our dealership owner operators, dealer principals, we're showing them the revenue and the profit opportunity by increasing their retention, maybe increasing their customer satisfaction, increasing their accessories business. Call it a lot of these kind of non-core functions compared to selling and financing the vehicle, and kind of implementing the same thing on the accessory side too. So a lot of it comes into coming up with an intriguing incentive plan for the individuals. As you know, a lot of folks in the dealership, they're all on different commission structures, variable pay plans. So making sure there's something in it for the entire team is important. And making sure that doesn't get in the way of the customer experience is also an important piece of it too.
Can you give me an example of? Just pick any position.
Sure.
Like service writer.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of like what would change or a change you'd recommend maybe in their compensation package to incentivize them?
A lot of what we do is we essentially manage incentive programs that will go out to a large dealership network on behalf of an OE. And a lot of times we will design those programs so that they're complementary to an existing pay plan structure within the dealership. Every pay plan is unique, but most of the time those pay plans do not include some type of retention or customer satisfaction metric. And that's really what, from a service advisor perspective, that's what they should be focused on, is offering that great experience for the customer so they're coming back for that next service visit, which is going to lead to that next sale. And so implementing some type of customer satisfaction and customer retention metric in there is important. And we've seen as dealers have truly begun to shift, it's a longer term view than what they're maybe traditionally wired for, right?
Yeah.
It's all close the month, close the quarter, or worry about next month. This is worrying about that next oil change, which may be a year from now for some customers. But making sure we're laying that groundwork and that experience is important. So a lot of times we implement an incentive strategy that will complement that.
That's a good idea. Especially for the service writer who might have, they might have 4 customers in front of them and a phone that won't stop ringing, and they've got all these fires. And so it probably easy for them to not think about, the retention of the customer. They're just trying to put out fires. So by putting it in their pay plan, I could see that really working to keep that top of mind. Like, hey, I got to make sure not only that this person gets their car, but that they leave happy.
Right. And capacity comes in play too, right? We have a lot of dealerships that have invested in growing their service and parts operations, have added brick and mortar, have added physical lifts and bays, and some probably need to look at doing that. But we've come up with some different solutions to increase capacity within an existing footprint as well. The advisor can control so much, right? And then it comes down to really the production capability of that service department and how efficient those technicians are operating. So we've brought in a number of different apprenticeship models to show dealerships the additional earning opportunity for the technician and the dealership if we can support the apprentices that are coming out from some of the trade schools, the automotive schools, and bring them in not only to work in the express space to kind of keep that light maintenance business and work off of the main shop, kind of separate that into its own production channel, but utilize those apprentice entry-level technicians to support their senior technicians, to help them bring more cars in, diagnose cars faster, do the alignments, do some of the work that an entry-level technician can do, will help increase the flagged hours of that senior tech. So they've got motivation to, train the newer technician coming in, and the dealership's going to bill and book more hours.
Presented from the Ishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
That's a great idea. I mean, you're really creating a team atmosphere. I mean, if everybody is incentivized by retention and they're all working together, that's a neat idea. And I don't know that I've ever heard of your idea of having the apprentice technician, do the things that the senior technician doesn't need to do. Like, why would you have your smartest technician going out to find a car and driving it in?
Right.
Right. Or like doing simple diagnostics. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but normally that would be on his plate when he should be doing the things that make the most money.
Think about your dentist, right? You have the hygienist doing the cleaning, and then the doctor comes in for the tough stuff. And that's kind of the atmosphere we're trying to implement. And you've worked in dealerships before, right? And the service department can sometimes be a daunting place to start in as an entry-level technician. But building that team atmosphere and having some type of team environment where we're working towards one goal in terms of how many vehicles we can produce, how many vehicles we can service and complete within a given month, not only are you going to increase the revenue of the technician's going to earn more, they're typically flat rate, they're going to be booking more hours because they have somebody helping them to go to grab the parts from the parts counter, bring the vehicle in and out of the shop, all the downtime that a technician spends looking up service information, service bulletins, that can be shifted over to the entry-level technicians. That's typically on an hourly compensation program. And we'll get them prepared for that kind of next step as they go through their career as a technician as well. And ultimately, it's going to benefit the customer because, we're talking about increasing revenue and profitability for the dealership, but that's coming through increased capacity and increased throughput, which is going to mean less downtime for the customer as well.
Nice. Well, now, how does a dealership monitor all this? Like what are they measuring? Let's say you're a technician, I'm the apprentice technician, we've got the service writer, service manager. I mean, all these people working as a team, and we're all trying to hit our metric together, but also individually. How does a dealership monitor this, and what are they measuring?
A lot of it comes down to planning, looking at the how many bays, how many technicians they have, and looking at what their total potential is for billable hours based on the capacity of that facility. And that's going to come down to how efficient each technician, is operating. But you really start to kind of plan and say, okay, if we are open for, 50 hours a week, and we're going to continue to operate within that 50 hours a week in terms of our hours of operation, how much more can we produce through there? So looking at that total billable hours that's total billable versus what they're actually billing will kind of show the capacity that they can increase in their dealership. And really looking at the the marketplace around them. I mean, there's plenty of aftermarket repair facilities around dealerships, and a lot of times they've got a parking lot full of cars, and customers have a lot of options. So recognizing that and then implementing a process within the dealership to correct it and bring that additional customer in for that repair visit is really something we're kind of looking at with the dealer principal as well as the service manager and getting kind of the whole dealership engaged in that process.
Now, you have a ton of background in accessories, so I wanted to ask you about this. In addition to improving the service department and the customer retention in that place, with EVs coming and accessories being another place where dealers can fill some gaps and also grow their revenue streams. Like what do you see coming? I mean, do you see franchise auto dealerships looking like a Harley dealership? Do you see them looking like an aftermarket paint and accessory store, a little bit of both? Like, what's your vision?
I think a little bit of both. I think a lot of it depends on the franchise you carry, right? And the Harley is a great example. If you've ever been to a Harley Davidson dealership, you walk in and you're typically immediately surrounded by, merchandise and chrome accessories, and you can kind of feel that atmosphere. You don't get that in a lot of traditional car dealerships. You'll have the nice new vehicles on the showroom. You'll have some point of sale around, but not a lot of hard parts, not a lot of areas for a customer to dream of what they can do with this vehicle. So in a lot of cases, what happens is the customer will buy the vehicle from the dealership. They get home and they immediately start going online and looking for where can I buy this. And so what we're working with dealerships on is getting that atmosphere in the dealership, and it starts with really the lifestyle of that particular brand of vehicle that you're selling. Take Jeep as an example, right? A great authentic brand, a lot of accessories and customization options, and a lot of Jeep dealerships do a good job of celebrating that, and some could do a better job. When you walk in and you look around, and is their merchandise displayed? Are they celebrating that brand, but also showing the customer, here's what you can do with this vehicle after you purchase it. And that's what another thing we're looking at with dealerships is implementing that process, not only for the look and feel of the dealership, but just think about the process. Generally speaking, and I compare it a lot to the F&I process, extended warranties. It's not very often a customer buys a new vehicle and doesn't get presented some options on financing and an extended warranty, right?
Yep.
Every time that customer gets an offer. Why not implement the same thing for accessories? Why not show them what they can implement and what they can add on to the vehicle from an accessories and a customization standpoint? And when a customer is making a large purchase like that, they're excited about it. They're going to go home and go online and go shopping. So let's capture that right then and there for the dealership. Typically, it's going to be a better deal for the customer. A lot of times those packages can be rolled into the financing. A lot of times those packages will match the factory warranty of the vehicle if it's installed when the vehicle is delivered. So there's a lot of benefits to the customers. I think it's just a lot of it comes down to a lack of awareness. And again, looking and working with the dealerships to allow them to see it as a true profit center for their dealership as well.
Where I live in New Jersey, there's a chain, I don't even know how many of them there are, but it's called Car Toys.
Yeah.
And when you drive by, and they don't even sell cars, but they've got all these cars sitting out front, and they've got every accessory on there, and they must be very successful because they keep popping up all over the place. So there's definitely a market for accessories.
Huge market. It's roughly a $60 million industry just in the U.S. alone. And wheels, exterior accessories. And a lot of times when we talk about accessories, we like to talk about the big stuff, right? The wheels, a lift kit, some of the more hardcore off-road performance type accessories. But there's a lot of things that an everyday customer is going to want, right? Everything from all-weather mats to the cargo mats to interior protection. Even on lease vehicles, why not protect that lease vehicle a little bit more so that when we go through that trade-in process, it's maybe a little bit of a smoother process for you. So a lot of opportunity, and that's kind of what we consult with dealerships on is identify what the customer's needs are, just like you do when you're selling a vehicle or talking to a customer. You're identifying those needs, and then be ready with what are those add-ons that the customer may be interested in. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times we talk accessories because we're in the industry. Your average consumer doesn't really know what an accessory is, but they know they want protection for their cargo area. They know they want protection for their floor mats. They know they want, right? So just making sure that we can relay that message to the customer, the average consumer, is important through the process as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I bought my 4Runner, if they would have offered me those little clip things that hold your fishing poles on top, I would have totally bought them.
Right.
I would have totally bought them.
We hear this all the time from customers with this type of dialogue is, if they would have offered, if they would have offered, if they would have offered. Yeah. And that's really what we're working on is offering and building that atmosphere with inside the dealership. Not only treating it as a profit center, but you're creating that environment of a customer wanting to come back and do business with you, whether it's in the service department or in the sales department. When they walk in, they get excited about what they're purchasing. And that's really what we should be driving for, is keeping that excitement going through kind of the ownership life cycle. Look what you can do with this vehicle that you just bought. We can do it for you today, right? So just making sure that we're kind of working on that process and that talk track. And again, a lot of it comes back to incentivizing the right way and compensating the right way to the folks on the showroom floor.
Yep, I mean, and I think every customer would be way more comfortable. Like if I'm buying X vehicle and you say this is the one that fits your car, we're going to put it on for you and it's going to work. That's a lot different than ordering something online. Maybe it fits, maybe you get the right parts. Is it going to fall off? Is it going to void my warranty? There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of reason why people don't do accessories afterwards.
New car dealers have a great advantage. Oftentimes the accessories and all the products they're selling are factory-backed warranty. National coverage. Take it to any one of our dealerships throughout the U.S. if you have any type of issue, and it can be taken care of at any dealership. Designed and engineered right along with the vehicle, so the fit and finish and function is typically better than the aftermarket as well. And it's usually a much more integrated solution with the vehicle than kind of what's out there in the aftermarket.
Well, Ryan, is there anything more you'd like to share with our audience today before we go?
At Helm, we're doing a lot to work with dealerships to grow their business and grow it beyond just selling that vehicle, but making sure that we're driving that retention. And I would just a little bit of advertisement for us is any dealership, dealer group, operator, owner, OE out there that is looking to drive more business, looking for a team of consultants and sales professionals to help them get there. Let us know. Helm.com is where you can get a hold of us, and we'd love to help.
Thanks for coming in, Ryan.
Thanks, Brian.
And thank you for taking the time to join us for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today our guest has been Ryan Maguire from Helm. We hope to see you on a future episode. This one's Over the Curb and Burning Gas.